The drama unfolding on live television didn't feel scripted, but it felt inevitable. Bill Maher sat there doing what he's increasingly done over the past few years, saying out loud what many Democrats whisper behind closed doors and what millions of voters feel every day when they step outside their homes. The conversation drifted from taxes to migration to crime to schools, but underneath it all was a single, uncomfortable truth. Something is breaking in America's most reliably democratic cities, and the people who live there know it. They feel it in their wallets, on their streets, and in their children's classrooms. Maher wasn't trying to burn the house down. He was pointing at the smoke pouring out of the windows while party loyalists argued about the color of the curtains. It began, almost casually, with talk of money and movement. Maher admitted what many high-income earners quietly acknowledge. He's thought about leaving, not because of the weather or the scenery, but because he wants to keep more of what he earns. That single admission cracked open a much larger reality. People are moving, and not in small numbers. California, New York, Illinois, states that once symbolized prosperity, progress, and opportunity are bleeding residents. The idea that this is random or purely lifestyle-driven collapses under even minimal scrutiny. These aren't people chasing better views or novelty. They're chasing affordability, safety, and sanity. Florida became the case study that refused to be ignored. When Ron DeSantis took office, Democrats actually outnumbered Republicans in voter registration. 8 years later, the state has swung dramatically in the opposite direction, not because millions of Floridians suddenly woke up conservative, but because people brought their feet, their families, and their voter registrations with them. Migration reshapes politics. It always has, and when voters flee blue states for red ones, it's not just a demographic shift. It's an indictment. As the conversation deepened, the spotlight turned to city leadership, and the numbers were brutal. Chicago's mayor, sitting at a 6.6% approval rating, wasn't just embarrassing, it was historically catastrophic. Rahm Emanuel, no stranger to political knife fights, didn't sugarcoat it. Cities live or die on three fundamentals: safe streets, strong schools, and stable finances. Ignore any one of those, and the entire structure starts to rot. Chicago, he argued, had failed all three. Crime is up, budgets are shaky, schools are underperforming, and residents feel abandoned. This wasn't abstract policy talk. It was about daily life. Parents worrying if their kids are actually learning, workers glancing over their shoulders on the way to the train, taxpayers wondering how they pay so much and get so little. Emanuel's point cut through the noise because it was painfully practical. Leadership isn't about slogans or ideological purity tests, it's about competence. When that disappears, approval ratings don't just dip, they collapse. Then came the cultural reckoning, the moment where frustration boiled over into something sharper. For years, leaders indulged the loudest, most radical corners of the cultural conversation, while ignoring glaring failures staring them in the face. Maher's anger wasn't subtle when the topic turned to schools. America is staring down historically bad reading scores, with 8th graders performing worse than at any point in 3 decades. And yet, national leadership seemed far more interested in arguing about bathrooms and locker rooms than whether children could read. The irony was almost unbearable. A global superpower, locked in competition with China, producing generations of students who can't meet basic academic standards. While parents pleaded for accountability and improvement, leaders chased symbolic battles that affected a tiny fraction of students. The result was predictable. Parents felt unheard. Kids fell behind. Trust evaporated. This wasn't just a policy failure, it was a betrayal of priorities. The criticism didn't stop at education. It widened into a full-blown indictment of democratic governance in major cities. High taxes layered on top of suffocating regulations created an environment where building anything, housing, infrastructure, businesses became an ordeal. In places like New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago, the cost of living exploded while quality of life declined. Residents paid more and received less. Streets weren't safer. Services weren't faster. Outcomes weren't better. What made it worse was the lack of accountability. When nothing works, the solution always seemed to be more rules, more agencies, more studies. The system became so tangled in process that results stopped mattering. It wasn't about whether a policy worked, but whether it followed every procedural step imaginable. Cities didn't feel governed anymore. They felt frozen. Los Angeles became a perfect symbol of this paralysis. It took fires and natural disasters to temporarily suspend rules that everyone suddenly realized weren't essential at all. Bridges collapse, emergencies hit, and magically, red tape disappears. Projects get built, solutions happen, which begs the obvious question: if these rules can be ignored in a crisis, why are they allowed to strangle progress the rest of the time? The conversation drifted to the idea of reinvention, something Democrats once embraced. In the 1990s, reinventing government meant stripping away inefficiency and focusing on outcomes. Today, that spirit feels dead. Too many policies are treated as sacred, untouchable, immune from scrutiny, and voters feel the consequences every day. Then came the money, and with it, the fear spreading through New York. Wall Street South isn't just a catchy phrase. It's a warning. Palm Beach, Miami, and other parts of Florida have quietly absorbed talent and capital fleeing the Northeast and California. These aren't ideological crusaders. They're investors, executives, and entrepreneurs who've done the math and decided the numbers no longer work. When figures like Ken Griffin move their operations, it sends a message far louder than any campaign ad. Capital is mobile. Talent is mobile. And when leaders treat high earners as villains rather than partners in economic growth, those earners don't argue. They leave. The proposed millionaires' taxes and wealth-focused rhetoric might play well on social media, but they terrify the shrinking tax base cities rely on. The irony is brutal. Drive out the people who pay the most, and the burden shifts to everyone else. Services get cut. Budgets shrink. Decline accelerates. Some tried to dismiss the exodus as overblown. People always threaten to leave, they said. They never do. But the numbers told a different story. Hundreds of thousands left New York City alone in just a few years. California saw similar losses. This wasn't hypothetical anymore. It was measurable. Maher seemed reluctant to fully embrace the implications, but the evidence piled up. Celebrities leaving, corporations relocating, middle-class families packing up. When governance fails, loyalty erodes. People don't abandon their homes lightly. They do it when staying feels impossible. Florida's transformation became the final, undeniable proof. A state once dominated by Democrats flipped not through persuasion, but migration. People arrived frustrated, disillusioned, and ready for something different. They didn't just change addresses, they changed the political map across the country. A pattern emerged clear to ignore. Cities that once defined American ambition now struggle with crime, failing schools, unaffordable housing, and bureaucratic paralysis. Leaders respond with rhetoric while residents demand results. Parents worry, workers flee, businesses relocate, and the cycle continues. The message wasn't partisan. It was practical. Governance matters. Outcomes matter. When leadership prioritizes ideology over everyday reality, people leave, not out of spite, but out of necessity. Once great cities don't collapse overnight, they erode slowly, decision by decision, until the damage becomes impossible to hide. And that's what made Maher's commentary so explosive. It wasn't a conservative attack. It was a warning from inside the House. A recognition that denial is no longer an option. If Democrats want to save their cities, they must refocus on safety, education, affordability, and efficiency. Cut the red tape. Deliver results. Earn trust back through competence, not slogans. Because cities don't survive on ideals alone. They survive when people feel safe walking home, confident sending their kids to school, and hopeful about their future. Ignore that, and no amount of messaging will stop the exodus. And that's where this story leaves us. Not with outrage, but with a question hanging in the air. Are these warnings going to be heard, or will leaders keep doubling down until there's nothing left to govern? If you found this breakdown compelling, let me know what you think. Are democratic cities facing a real reckoning, or is this criticism overblown? Do you think leadership will change course, or will the migration continue? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this kind of deep dive, and subscribe for more long-form,